I was hired to become a chief of the neonatology and develop both the clinical and teaching programs. Soon I realized within a few months we were still in the dark ages. When the JCH came to visit, that our NICU, neonatal ICU, which had a 45 bed at the time, and there was only one door to go in and out, so if there was a fire, there was no way to evacuate those babies. So our 40-bed nursery or NICU, neonatal ICU, soon became 65-bed ICU. Grant allowed us to bring in new nurses, new people, entire respiratory therapists, pharmacists, other subspecialists, more social workers, nutritionists because neonatology is a team sport, so you need everybody's input. It was like an extended family. We got along well. You worked very hard, but you play hard. In those days, thanks to Dr. Maslow and others, they allowed us to have parties. You could go outside the hospital. That was supported by drug companies those days. They would have celebrations, Halloween, other stuff, and everybody enjoyed it. One of the great things, which is hard for people to imagine today, that we had a full-time engineer who was just dedicated to the neonatal ICU. We had a full-time pharmacist who just dealt with neonatal ICU patients so the medication errors would be minimized. Remember, things were not computerized. You didn't have a system where you could check the drugs. And I was very, very fortunate to get national and international exposure as they were developing these drugs, because we had multi-center clinical trials both in the United States and internationally. Also through these trials of high-frequency ventilation, we had to collaborate with other experts at major universities. So gave LSU Shreveport a lot of exposure in terms of, from us to go and talk, interact, pick the brain. So I happened to be on committees of the Academy of Pediatrics, where we write policies, procedures of managing patients, which I do to this day. These are the latest guidelines, that what is the new scientific evidence that you will have a better outcome to stabilize that baby. I find that very rewarding, the writing part of it, and interacting and keeping up with the latest literature nationally, internationally. So it keeps my brain functioning.
I am very privileged to have provided service, and I'm deeply grateful to the institution for that. Our section was located underneath the emergency room. And it's like that because you're dealing with radiation. You don't want the radiation being received by people who come to the hospital. So it's a protected part of the hospital. In my line of work, modern technology has made radiation treatment safer and more precise. In radiation therapy, it means the advent of stereotactic radiosurgery and intensity modulated radiotherapy. These new technologies is in essence focused radiation treatment. That means sparing normal tissues in the body from receiving very much radiation. Before you did what you were trained to do, you did your best to tell them what to expect from the treatments. Now you have to provide some evidence. Tell them, does it work or not? And how is it useful to patients after the treatment? Allow me to tell you what I have witnessed during my 40 years of privileged service. The first one was the coming of the Cancer Center. This brought world-class care to our community. The second development was the modernization of the School of Medicine. This will help our future doctors to meet the challenges of tomorrow.
And I was hired on by Dr. Frederick Stucker, who was your chairman for a long time. And Dr. Stucker was a young surgeon at Bethesda, Maryland, and he would come up the road to Baltimore to teach us at Johns Hopkins about facial plastics and noses. And then he came down here, and I came on home in 1985, and you know, it was very easy for me to sign on here. I've been a doctor for 50 years, and I was generally trained because that was just about the way everybody was trained 50 years ago. We did not have the subspecialties, but I must say that our subspecialists are able to do so much more and do it better than us generalists were. Shreveport is probably not a big enough market that a surgeon doing a deep subspecialty could actually make a living here. And because of LSU, we have these specialty surgeons, you know, on staff here. This is a real benefit that LSU gives to the community. LSU has sinus nasal specialists. It has cancer reconstruction specialists that do free flaps that we just didn't have when I did my training. Okay, and Dr. Mankakar, our otologist, has got a few tricks that I haven't seen before. Okay, Dr. Yim is all the time going through the skull underneath the brain to extract a tumor or drain an infection. That was just something we couldn't do, or we couldn't do it safely.